Hey everybody, Tuesday Acres here. So part of living on a homestead is repairing your own stuff, whether it's tools, equipment, household items, whatever, right? There's no way I could afford to send out or just dispose of tools when they break. So when I first started using it, it was intermittent and I popped this cord off and it looked kind of rough. So I went ahead and patched her back together and started using it again, and lo and behold, guess what? It started being intermittent again. So it's literally been sitting on a shelf for over a year now, and I just got back around to it and decided I'd, tinker with it again. Guess what? I plug it in, she starts working, right? So in my infinite wisdom, I take the whole thing and I start banging it on the bench, thinking maybe I can get it to quit working. And the little lock button hits the bench, locks up the chuck while it's spinning, and breaks the button right in half. Here's what's left of it. Yeah, it didn't work out so well. So e-replacement parts, you can get basically anything for any tool. So it took less than 2 weeks. I got a new button and I figured while I'm at it, I'll get a new cord. And I'll tell you what, this is an actual, no kidding, Milwaukee exact replacement. It even says Milwaukee on the plug. And it comes with the exact connector, yeah, everything. So it's fantastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing slapped back together now with all the new parts. I'm gonna put some fresh grease in it, probably clean up the commutator a little bit, and double check everything else inside of it, and we'll see how it works. That brush looks perfectly fine. Contacts look good. So just to clean up the insides of these pins here, these contacts, you're going to run some emery cloth through it. Get both sides. Okay, I'm going to call that guy good. And these contacts right in here, they actually look fine. I really don't think that's an issue. But we're going to just clean it up to make sure. And with those ones, usually just a light scoring will work just fine. We can put this guy back in here. Actually, I got to pinch him first. Okay. That guy, I think went in like that, yeah. So let's just get set back in here. That's back in place. And this guy goes just like that. All right, now I'm certain that those have good contact now. All right. Next, see if we can get that other one out. I'm gonna pull the other half of the handle off. I think it'd actually be easier to pop the brush out separately. So we'll pop that brush out just like that. And it will lift right out. That brush looks good, its contacts look good. It's got a little contact right here, soldered on. And the actual wire holding it there looks good too. Alright, Spring's still good. Same thing, we'll pull out that little guy. All right, so both of our brushes look good. All those contacts are cleaned up. Now we're gonna go ahead and pull the wires out. And I do this one for one, just so I do not mess it up. Pull out this white one first. It's worth checking on these female spade connectors to make sure that that little lip in there isn't too wide. And kind of can't really hurt to just give them just a little pinch. That'll help make sure you get a good connection. Just, you're not looking to smash it, just ever so slightly, just so that that gap in there, when you push this on, it makes good contact. So I know that one's good now. And you should have a fair amount of resistance with that connector going on. And of course I just bent that one because I had too much resistance. It's still good. It's all the way in, all the way on. Now we'll do the other side. And this whole ass end just fell off. So the whole switch come off, which is fine. Still has a good ka-chunk feel to it. It's probably a good thing because now I can check those connections as well. So we've got these spades here that we can get cleaned up. And here's our commutator right here. And it's not terrible looking. Bearing sounds good. Front bearing is fine. So what I'm going to do is just hit this commutator with just a little bit of Scotch-Brite. And you can already see it's cleaning up quite a bit. You don't really want to hit this with sandpaper. Don't get me wrong, I have very, very lightly, you know, with like a 200 grit or something like that, just super light, but I've since learned the error in my ways. And look at that, a little bit of Scotch-Brite. Look at that thing. There wasn't even a whole minute of Scotch-Brite. So that guy's good. I'm going to call that whole thing good. Yep, so that side's good. I've already cleaned this guy out. This guy looks fine. And that's just a plastic guard on the front. I'll just give it a quick wipe down. Now here's our lock, chuck lock, and the old button. That's the button I smashed stupidly. So that broken button's actually tough to get off there. It's made to sit with a spring on the backside to pull it up and away, right? And it's got a pretty good grip. That little recess there snaps on to the end of this lock. So once it's on there, it likes to stay. All right, so our lock goes in. I threw a smidge of grease on the end of it. Then our spring. I'm guessing I just push real hard. There she goes. You can see the lock right here now. Up and down. And that button actually retains it from dropping in. I can't believe they depended on a thin little piece of plastic to hold that thing up and out of the way. All right, so I think we're all set. I just need to fill this guy full of grease now. And these particular ones has the word back stamped into it right here where my finger's pointing, right there. And that goes towards the back of the tool. So you know the orientation of that guy there. Now, to get the commutator back into the brushes, tipping these brushes out just a smidge. Oh yeah, much easier. So I was able to just tip the brushes out. Now our bearing and our commutator can slide right in. I always check the full operation of everything as I put it back together. Last thing you want to do is get it all the way put back together, then realize that something in the paddle or switch isn't working. So this bearing down in here does not appear to be seating properly. Oh, it will. I think it's just this retaining, whatever that's called. Yeah, I think once it's screwed down. So when I squeeze it down, oh yeah, yep, it'll fit. So there's this spring doodad up here. Maybe that just puts a preload on one of the bearings, but that is definitely what's holding us up. Get this strain relief in here. And with this particular one, you want a little bit of the actual cord, not just the 2 wires. You want your actual cable to go through this U shape, and that'll help kind of pinch it in place where it's supposed to be, all right? So get your strain relief in its cutout, and then get that cord in its cutout. That way it don't go nowhere. Now I know that everything's lined up, the cords are good, the contacts are good, everything's kind of in place. I'm gonna go ahead and get a couple screws in the top here for the head unit, the gearbox. I've also got 4 little screws that hold this, the actual drive end on it, and that's these little guys here. I love my impacts, but you gotta be really careful. I usually hand tighten. Use this just to drive it in most of the way, and then hand tighten from there. Don't forget your little paddle lock switch, which for this one happens to go right here. This new strain relief is a snug fit. So you can see the strain relief is still causing quite a gap in here, so I'm going to hand tighten very cautiously. Yeah, tightened up easy. Alright, let's check the switch. That looks good. Our lock looks good. Strain relief looks good. Now let's get everything tightened down. All right, moment of truth. Let's plug it in and find out. Well, that seemed like a success. Not a terrible job, all right? You know, what did we spend, 20, 30 minutes, something like that, tinkering with it. Now, granted, I had to wait a couple weeks to fix the ding button that I broke. The original cord wasn't really all that bad. There was some dry rotting and cracking. And like I said, I repaired one section of it a while back. There's some dry rotting and cracking up here, I think. But I have a good use for this cord, especially since it's got an original Milwaukee strain relief and plug and all that. So, all right, well, hopefully that helps somebody. Easy job, no problem, you know. But learning how to do this stuff, you know, take your time. Don't do this while it's plugged in, right? I mean, use your head a little bit. If you got questions, ask, call somebody. Obviously Google and YouTube, right? If you got any questions, you know, throw it down the comment section. I'll be more than happy to take a look at it, or, you know, try to help out in any way that I can. But it sure beats buying a new one for, you know, 80, 100 bucks. And, you know, most people, unfortunately, are just throwing stuff like this away. Try to find ones that are thrown away and fix them up. You know, I do that all the time. That's why I've got like 7, 8 grinders now. I don't have to swap out my pads so often anymore. Anyway, thanks a bunch. Appreciate it. If this helped, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks.